Okay, this is 1.5 and 1.6, my MathLab notes, and we're going to be adding and subtracting real numbers today. So our objectives today are, first of all, to add and subtract real numbers, and secondly, to apply adding and subtracting of real numbers to real-world situations. The example problems that I'll do that are like your homework problems are numbers 4, 5, 7, 19, and 23. Now you'll recall that when you learn how to add real numbers, specifically integers, that when you're adding the same signs, a positive plus a positive or a negative plus a negative, that you just add the numbers and use the same sign. For example, 2 plus 3 is equal to 5, and those both were positive, so we just added them together and we got a positive 5. And negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. Both of those were negative. We just added those together and we used the same sign, the negative sign. And then also, if you're adding different signs, you really are going to subtract those numbers and use the sign of the larger number. For example, negative 2 plus 3 is equal to positive 1. So I'm adding signs that are not alike. One's a negative, one's a positive. So I subtract those numbers. 3 minus 2 is 1. And the bigger number is positive. So therefore my answer is positive. Another example, 2 plus negative 3, that's equal to negative 1. Again, I'm adding a positive and a negative, so those are different signs. And so I subtract those numbers. 3 minus 2 is 1. But because the bigger number this time is negative, the answer is also negative. Now for subtracting real numbers, you'll recall that we're going to just change the subtraction symbol to addition, and then change the sign of the number that followed the subtraction symbol, and just follow the rules for adding real numbers. So we can change all of our subtraction problems to addition problems. For example, 2 minus 3, we can change the subtraction sign to addition and then make the sign that follows it negative. So it becomes 2 plus negative 3. And remember, I'm following the rules for addition, so I've got different signs here. So I'll subtract those numbers. 3 minus 2 is 1, and the bigger number is negative, so it's negative 1. Next example, negative 2 minus 3. I'm going to change the subtraction to addition, change the sign that follows the subtraction. So I've got negative 2 plus negative 3, and those signs are the same, so I'll add those together, and that becomes negative 5. And then lastly, negative 2 minus negative 3. Notice they've got parentheses separating the minus and the negative. So that becomes a negative 2 plus positive 3. I change the subtraction symbol and change the sign that follows the subtraction. So now I have negative 2 plus 3. Those signs are different. I'll subtract the numbers. So 3 minus 2 is 1. And the bigger number is positive, so my answer is positive 1. Now your calculator will automatically do these rules for you, so you can just enter these problems into the calculator and it will automatically, has those rules programmed into it, and it will automatically give you the correct answers. The big thing is to make sure that when it's a minus sign that you're pushing that, and then that there's a different button for the negative sign. So the problems I want to do as examples are really the word problems, because you can do the other problems just with your calculator. So the first one we'll look at is number 4. Number 4 says the low temperature in Eau Claire, Wisconsin was negative 17 last night. During the day it rose only 2 degrees. Find the high temperature for the day. Now, just like before, we really need to pick out some keywords that are going to help us figure out whether to add or subtract here. And so we started at negative 17, and then the temperature rose 2 degrees. So if it rose, that means we need to add 2 degrees to negative 17. So negative 17 degrees plus 2 degrees, we've got different signs, so we're going to subtract those numbers. Negative 17 plus 2 is negative 15, because 17 minus 2 is 15, and then the bigger number is negative. So it's negative 15 degrees. On number 5, says the bottom of the canyon is 7,707 feet below the surrounding terrain, called the rim. If the person is standing 779 feet above the bottom of the canyon, how far from the rim is he? Sometimes on the word problems it's nice to draw a picture. So if I've got a canyon, and then I've got a rim at the top of the canyon, and the bottom of the canyon is 7,707 feet below the surrounding terrain. Now, because it's below, this number is negative. So I've got negative 7,707 feet. That's where I am, how far I am down from the rim. And then the person is standing 779 feet above the bottom of the canyon. So let's say that's the person. So I'm 779 feet above this bottom of the canyon. So I want to know, how far down am I from the rim? This is the rim at the top. So I want to take negative 7,707, because that's below, and add 779 feet to that. And that will tell me how far down from the rim I am. So because these are different signs, we'll subtract these numbers. And 7,707 minus 779 is negative 6,928 feet. Okay, the next one we want to look at is number 7, and this is just really a vocabulary word here, not a word problem. But number 7 says find the additive inverse or opposite of 2. The additive inverse or opposite is negative 2. So if it's a positive number, the additive inverse is a negative number. If the number was negative, the additive inverse or the opposite would be a positive number. Now remember, don't get this confused with absolute value. Absolute value of 2 is 2. Absolute value is always positive. Remember, absolute value has those bars around the number. Next one I want to look at is number 19. Number 19 says, one day the temperature dropped from 5 degrees Fahrenheit to negative 18 degrees Fahrenheit. How many degrees did it drop? So if it started at 5 degrees and went all the way down to negative 18, and our keyword here is dropped. If the temperature dropped, that means we're going to be subtracting. If it rises, we're adding. So I want to just subtract 5 minus negative 18. And we can change subtraction to addition and change the sign of the next number to its opposite, so it's positive. So 5 plus 18 is 23 degrees. So the temperature dropped 23 degrees. If you think about it on a number line, you can think about it this way. If we start it here at 5 degrees and we go all the way down to negative 18 degrees, then you can just count the spaces in between and it will be 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 spaces. So again, we can just subtract and go 5 minus negative 18 and get the 23. The last one I want to look at is number 23. Number 23 says find the unknown angle. So we're trying to find this angle y right here. Now, maybe from previous years, you remember that this angle y plus this angle 40 degrees, they make a straight line. They're supplementary to each other, which means that they add up to 180 degrees. So we can just take 180 degrees and subtract 40 degrees, and that will give us the missing angle, angle y. So 180 minus 40 is 140 degrees. So at this point, I want you to do your homework, 1.5 and 1.6. There are 25 questions on this homework. Make sure you journal all of your answers and show work on numbers 4 through 6, 8 and 9, and 17 through 25.